Hey, so, and I was trying to think of what I wanted to talk about this time around, and I was thinking maybe I would talk about how I got an agent, my first agent, how I got representation, how I got a manager. I was thinking, maybe of doing the union stuff first and how I got into the unions, SAG and equity. But really, at the end of the day, you cannot get a good theatrical agent without your union, but you can get other agents and managers and representation without it. Whereas the SAG card is much, much more difficult to obtain. So I figured I could start with that. And actually, in the process of things, it's how I did it. I got my representation before I got into the union. Kind of figured I'd talk a little bit about that and the problems that I ran into and some of the issues that I found in dealing with all of these different types of representation and different types of people that I was dealing with. You want to think that everybody in this town is out to just do the best they can and to, everybody, so that everybody's happy and everyone's making money, but it's really just not how it is. There are the good ones, and then there are the bad ones, and then there are the flat out crooks. So I ran into all of them, all of the above. Right now, I'm with a fantastic representation. My agents, the agency that I'm with is Firestarter Entertainment. They're fantastic. I found my home with representation, and I couldn't be happier with them. But I figured I'd just talk a little bit about how I got there. So let's start with the kind of representation that you can get without your union card. I found out by talking to friends and other actors that commercial representation is something that you can get without a union card. You can get a commercial agent because actually a lot of advertisers they're looking for fresh faces. They don't want union cards. But if you get a national or something, you'll get your union card out of that. But a lot of the commercials are non-union as well. And just because they're non-union doesn't mean they don't pay good. I mean, I booked a job, a non-union job for Walmart, which wasn't an actual commercial. It was an industrial. It was for internal use only. But I got paid like $5,000 for like 4 hours of work. I mean, that's pretty good, you know what I mean? In the grand scheme of things, it didn't do a whole lot for me. It didn't, I didn't even get any footage of that. I didn't even get it from my reel, and I didn't get a union card out of it. But it was good money. So there you go, 4 hours of work, $1,200 an hour basically. So commercial agent is one you can do. Now, that's what I did straight out of the gate. Is I went for the commercial agent. Now, the question is how I did that. Well, we've already established that I had my headshots good to go. And for a commercial agent, that's kind of all you need. You got to be ready to, be able to go in there and do a scene for them. You're going to read for them. They're going to send you some copy, some commercial copy that you're going to have to read for them. But that's kind of it. They're just kind of looking for the looks, right? They want to say, oh, this person has a good look that we need. For me, this look works great, and the fact that I had skills, right? I was, I had my motorcycle license, and so there was a lot of commercial agents that were looking for those biker type people. So that worked well for me. I had a good look that served me on the commercial end of things. So the question really became like, how do I do this? How do I, get a hold of commercial agents and tell them I need representation? Like, what do? Do I just mail my headshots to them and my resume? What do I do? So the first thing that I did was I went and I opened a MailChimp account. And in MailChimp, you can create what's called an EPK, an electronic press kit for yourself. What I heard from everybody was don't attach pictures to emails for agents. They don't want to have to download anything. They don't want to have to take the time to do that. They don't want to, have links to everything. If you have a reel, have a link to your Vimeo account or your YouTube account. Make sure that it's not password protected so they can just get in and look at it and see what's going on. They can look at your pictures. They can do all that. Have the pictures right on the EPK. When it comes up, they can see your pictures. So I went in and I created this EPK on MailChimp that showed who I was right up front. This is my picture. These are the different looks that I have. Here are links to my LA casting account, which I figured out I needed to have straight out of the gate. My Actors Access account, here are my links to those accounts. Here's my resume. Here's everything at a glance that you could see. And so they could see, just opening that up, here's who I am, and here's what I have to offer. And MailChimp does a great job of, formatting that out, and you can move things around and do everything that you need to do. This especially came in handy later down the road when I did have a solid reel that just, there was a link and then a little picture that said, reel, click here, and they could click on it and it would take them to the Vimeo account, and then they could watch my reel. I still use it. I still use this MailChimp to this day, if I need to send it out to somebody, a producer or whatever, with all my information. It's a great tool to have. So I put that together, put an EPK together, and then I started to look for emails of agents. Now, I went through Backstage West. They have a list of current agencies that you can go through, and I started at the top at A, and I just went down the list and emailed this EPK to everybody who had an email address. Now, obviously, the bigger, agencies like CAA or William Morris Endeavor and those kinds, don't even bother. I mean, why? Nobody's going to look at it. You're not, and quite frankly, I wasn't big enough to be involved in them. I didn't want to be represented by those big guys because I would get lost in the shuffle. Not only would they not even look at my stuff, I wouldn't want that because they're not going to do a good job for me. They're not in the business of fostering talent and training up new talent, right? You want to start at the level that you're at, which is for me a small level commercial agency was fine. That's all I was looking for. And so I went down, and every agency that said they were commercial agency, if they didn't say, submissions by referral only, then I submitted to them. If they didn't have an email address, what I would do is then I would go over to IMDb Pro and I would put in the name of that agency and see if that brought up an agent or somebody who had an email address that I could look up. Again, IMDb Pro, great resource, totally recommend it. It costs money, but totally a great resource. I would totally recommend it. And that's what I did. I started at A and went to Z. And it takes time, and it takes effort, and it's tedious. But I'll tell you what, that first time I got, I think probably 2 or 3 meetings. I mean, I probably sent out over 100 emails to agents, to commercial agents, and I got, I think, maybe 3 meetings out of that, which is great. That's a good number because then I got to choose who I liked. And I wound up going with a company called Endeavor. Which is like a mid-level. It's it's not a little boutique agency. Like they had 3 commercial agents that were working there, along with all their theatrical and print and all those agents. And I don't even remember the gal's name who was the head of Sovereign Commercial, but she brought me in and had me read some copy for her, some commercial copy for her, and then said, "Yeah, we like you. We'll sign you." Now, let me really break down quickly. I was with them for about 6 months, and let me tell you why I left them. I think this is important information to know. She loved my read. She loved my headshots. And about 2 months into being with them, they had a big switch over, and the gal that agent that was working with her, she moved on, and these two other guys came in, these two brothers, and they took me on, and basically what they said to me is, look, if you're going to submit yourself, tell us, we'll submit for you. Don't submit yourself. It's better to come through an agency. And I said, you sure? Because you're going to hear from me every day. Like this, I'm very serious about this. Oh, yeah, no, you submit to us. So every day I'd go into LA Casting and I'd look up and I'd say, hey, how about this? How about this? How about this? And in 6 months, they had sent me out on one audition in 6 months. So I call up and I'm talking to them about this, and one of them gets me angry with me and says, I wish you'd quit telling us how to do our job. And I went, oh, I thought this was my career. You know what I mean? I thought you told me you wanted me to go through you, so that's what I'm doing. I warned you that I was going to do this, And he says, and I said, but in 6 months you haven't sent me out. You sent me out on one audition in 6 months. Like that's totally unacceptable. And his response was, well, maybe you just need to take more acting lessons. I said, how would you know that? You've never seen me act. You sent me out on one thing, and my acting clearly was good enough to get signed on by you guys in the first place. And you weren't there, so you didn't see my acting. And then he says, well, maybe you need new headshots. Okay, well, why are you telling me this 6 months into it? Clearly that's not the case. And that's what I found that a lot of agents will do. They just push it back on their clients. It's your fault somehow that you're not getting called in. And so the lead agent finally said, well, we're going to have lunch today and discuss whether or not we want to continue to rep you, because they were tired of me calling. And I said, I'm going to save you some trouble. I'm moving on. I'm out. I'm not going to, I don't want to be repped by you anymore. 6 months, one audition, that's unacceptable. And guys, it is. You don't have to put up with that. If your agent is not sending you out, then find a new agent. It's just that simple. And there's literally thousands of them in Hollywood, right? So I went back to the drawing board and I did the same thing again, and boom, sent out those EPKs, and looking for an agency. Boom, I got another 3 meetings, and I wound up meeting with Edgar over at NV Talent, which was a little boutique, only 2 agents in the whole agency, theatrical and Edgar, who was doing commercial. And I was with Edgar for a long time. Edgar was fantastic. He was great. He sent me out quite a bit. He got me out at least 2 or 3 times a month, which I was later to find out, once I really got rolling, that now I'm going out that many times a week. But that was great. It was great and Edgar was really working hard for me. And then he wound up going to AEFH, which is another really big agency. And so I followed him over there. Long story short, he went into theatrical. They represented me in commercial, and then I fell back into that same thing as Sovereign, where they weren't sending me out anymore. And so I wound up just moving up to my current agency, which is Firestarter, who now reps me across the board. So, those are the kind of pitfalls that you're going to find yourself falling into. And what you have, that's one of the things that you really have to watch out for with agencies is, are they working for you? Mine weren't. They weren't working for me, so I got rid of them. So outside of my commercial agent, I found out very quickly that theatrical agents wouldn't touch me. They weren't going to touch me because I didn't have my SAG card, I didn't have my equity card, I didn't have a good tight reel. My resume needed to be put together, and I needed more stuff, solid stuff on my resume and training and all that stuff. I didn't have all that stuff, and so a theatrical agent wasn't going to touch me yet until I got all that stuff together. Now, I had heard that, there were agents out there looking for certain specialty things, like, if you were a gymnast or a platform diver, or if you had some kind of a characteristic that they were looking for physically, like a big studio film was looking for a bunch of amputees, and then agents were out there signing those people, but that didn't apply to me. And so I couldn't rely on that. So I had to figure out how I was going to get my face out there and in front of casting directors, union or non-union, outside of commercial auditions. What was some other ways that I could do that? And what I started to figure out was I needed a good manager.